challenges for firefighting crews. They're focusing mainly on preserving homes, buildings, and any other infrastructure. The fires have also caused stress for outfitters and others who rely on the region's tourism industry. Officials have announced plans to open parts of the BWCA for day use starting Monday, and overnight camping may open in some areas later next week if conditions don't worsen. That's the important part. Northern Minnesota could see more rain this weekend, but wind, thunderstorms, and hotter temperatures in the forecast could also expand the fires. So we are looking at the screen here. As soon as we have someone at the podium, we may have to cut in. But for now, we'll bring you these top news headlines, as always, here on NPR News.
Live from NPR News in Washington, I'm Nora Rahm. President Trump will meet with Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky next week at the White House, according to a White House official not authorized to talk on the record. As NPR's Danielle Kurtzleben reports, the meeting would be one of several between the two leaders this year.
The meeting will happen Tuesday, according to the White House official. The men also met at the G7 summit in June, as well as at the NATO summit in Ankara, Turkey, earlier this month. At that Turkey summit, Trump said the U.S. would give Ukraine a license to make Patriot air defense systems. That was considered a win for Ukraine as it continues defending itself against Russian missile strikes. The Russian war in Ukraine is now more than 4 years long. Trump and Zelensky have had a rough relationship at times, with an early 2025 Oval Office meeting that devolved into a heated argument in front of the news media. Danielle Kurtzleben, NPR News, the White House.
President Trump today imposed sweeping new tariffs on 59 countries plus the European Union. That's drawing criticism from affected countries, including China. Jan Kemensen-Brumby has more.
China's comments come after the Trump administration imposed tariffs of 12.5% on Chinese goods. Speaking at a press conference, Beijing's Ministry of Foreign Affairs spokesperson said, quote, "We oppose all forms of unilateral tariff measures," adding, quote, "A tariff war or trade war serves the interests of no one." Washington accuses China of detaining people from the Uyghur ethnic minority group in work camps, a claim Beijing denies. The new tariffs come just as a previous temporary global tariff of 10% expired. Last year, both China and the US engaged in a tit-for-tat trade war that was brought to a close after a meeting between Presidents Trump and Xi Jinping last October. For NPR News, I'm Jan Kemensen-Brumby in Taipei.
U.S. military officials say U.S. missiles struck targets in Iran last night for the 13th consecutive night. Iran responded by firing on U.S. bases in neighboring Arab countries. 8 months after a ceasefire took effect in Gaza, Palestinian officials say the war's humanitarian toll is still growing, that more families have been displaced. NPR's Anis Baba reports.
Gaza's Social Development Ministry says more than 2,000 children have lost one or both parents since the ceasefire announced last October, bringing the total number of registered orphans to more than 65,000. The ministry says more than 700 women also became widows during the period, while continued airstrikes and evacuation orders forced more than 800 families from their shelters. Just last week, Gaza's health officials said 2 entire families were killed in Israeli airstrikes, underscoring how the humanitarian toll continues despite the ceasefire. For many Palestinians, the ceasefire has changed little from the war. Anis Baba, NPR News, Gaza City.
This is NPR News in Washington.
Support for NPR comes from NPR stations. Other contributors include Progressive. Progressive Commercial Insurance protects small businesses from retailers to tradespeople. Progressive covers a variety of business needs with a range of coverages. More at progressivecommercial.com.
For NPR News in the Twin Cities, I'm Elena C. The U.S. Forest Service says wildfire conditions in northeast Minnesota have been relatively calm this week. That is expected to change. Drew Stroberg is acting supervisor for the Superior National Forest. He says the region is still about a month away from reaching its driest point.
There will be fire in the boundary waters in some way, shape, or form until we get snow. That's what's going to put these fires out. Our goal is to try to keep them as small as we can, but realistically, we're putting our resources, like I said, in areas where we can protect homes and other values.
Stroberg says with favorable conditions over the weekend, parts of the Boundary Waters Canoe Area Wilderness could be open for overnight camping next week. We are waiting.
We're here in Ely at the Engine Bay at the Queechway District Office. And first and foremost, We are really excited. We have another great lineup of speakers. First up, we'll have fire status and summary of operations. We have statewide fire situation, evacuation and escort update, forest closure update, weather outlook, and air quality outlook. So we'll go through all of those presentations, and then we'll have Q&A thereafter. So I will turn the mic over to Shane Sturgill.
Good afternoon. My name is Shane Sturgill. I'm with Southern Area Team 1, Operations Section Chief. I'm going to talk to you a little bit today about the July lightning incident. Starting off with the Chubb Fire. Chubb Fire currently is line completion done. Heavy, extensive mop-up is continuing within that area to make sure that we have all the perimeter secure. Looking at a few more shifts, and then that should be going into a patrol monitor status for the near future. Moving over to the Sioux Fire. Sioux Fire is still working. A lot of extensive mop-up of south of Echo Trail. That work continues. We have noticed an uptick in some heat within that area, and so we have a lot of crews in place that are doing that extensive mop-up and will continue for the foreseeable future. Along the Echo Trail, we're doing a shaded fuel break, which means we're reducing some of the fuel loading within that area, leaving some of the overstory to help create a control line, which we're utilizing as our primary line in the event the fire tries to want to move south. So a lot of crews out there utilizing different types of crews with hand tools and a lot of heavy equipment as well. That work's going to continue. It's a very long corridor. We're looking at about 15 miles, and we're probably close to 20% complete with that. Moving over to the Bear Fire, we're working closely in and around with some of the structures with structure prep. We've got the area of Big Lake. All the structures have been assessed and prepped, and we're looking at now finishing up the Whispering Pines area, which should be completed here within a few shifts. Moving on along Echo Trail, that work continues as well with that shaded fuel break as we move down towards camp. On the campfires, looking really good. Not finding a lot of heat, but any heat that's out there along our control lines, the crews are doing aggressive mop-up to help control that fire. Looking at other opportunities to try to get line completely around the camp. Also looking across the whole fire footprint, we're identifying additional mitigation measures with what we're saying a secondary line. So we're finding some opportunities to get tighter on these fires to make the box a lot smaller. So that works in the planning stages and some implementation, and that work is going to continue to try to decrease that footprint to keep it at a smaller footprint across the landscape. Of course, we have the Thumb Fire, which is in the wilderness. We did insert some crews there, identified some key areas to put in those saw lines, the hose lays, to maintain security on some of the key areas for some communities that are across into the international side. A lot of moving parts out there. We have a lot of resources in and around the communities. Those folks are there and can answer a lot of your questions. So if you do have questions, feel free to ask those folks. They're on the ground doing a lot of great work. Also with that, there's been a lot of aviation flying with the uptick in some of our fire activity over the last couple of days. So we've had a lot of aviation assets that helping check some of those fires that's in the wilderness where we're seeing some of that significant heat. It is a large organization, and safety is our #1 priority, not only for the public, but for our responders. I do want to add the folks that still remain in those ready, set areas. Be thinking about your plans in the event that we do have to change to a go. Think about what you need to take and have those ready. Don't wait till the last minute to make those, try to get those necessities to be able to leave. Please think about how you're going to get there and where you're going to go and what you need to take with you. Thank you.
This is NPR News. You're listening to a live update on the wildfires burning in northern Minnesota around the Boundary Waters Canoe area from Ely.
Good afternoon, everybody. My name is Nick Petrak. I'm the fire staff officer for the Superior and Chippewa National Forests up in northern Minnesota. On behalf of our National Incident Management Organization team that's been delegated responsibility for the Little Knife Fire on the eastern portion of our Superior National Forest, I'm just going to give a little update on that fire. So the Little Knife Fire is approximately 4,958 acres. They have containment at 13%. The team is working on a long-term strategic plan while engaging in strategic operations as we have opportunities with the fire weather. We're ordering some additional crews. We have a plan to do some direct suppression actions in there, along with hot shot crews, aviation, and some of our partners. We're in close coordination with Thunder Bay, Fort Francis in Ontario, with the northern portion of the fire, predominantly up in Canada in that particular area. The long-term strategy for this team is really developing it, identifying the values at risk, working with the local cooperators along the Gunflint Trail, and doing some structure assessments as part of their planning process. Moving off of the Little Knife Fire, my job is to sort of oversee all of the fire on the Superior National Forest. That's my day job. The fire, we've had approximately 26, 27 fires since this July lightning event. We have a set group of people that work on the fires that were just talked about, along with the Knife Lake Fire. But one thing to keep in mind that's very important, that we have initial attack resources. Initial attack resources are resources that are set aside to be able to take on additional fires if we do get additional lightning strikes, human-caused fires. Along with utilizing our aviation assets, it's extremely important that we're working with our partners very closely, such as our county fire departments, the Sheriff's Office, the Minnesota Department of Natural Resources, and other federal agencies. The weather has been challenging for us in the month of July. We are seeing some drought for sure on the landscape, and we anticipate being in this for quite some time, being that it's only midsummer and August can be a challenging month for us to start fires. Thank you.
Good afternoon, everyone. Paul Lundgren, Agency Administrator for Minnesota DNR. Just going to touch on a little bit, it's not new information, more so that as a large organization, as mentioned, with a tremendous focused effort here in this general area on multiple large fires and others that continue to be in a patrol status to be careful of and keep track of, that initial attack, you'll hear me refer to IA, that's initial attack. So that large organization focuses on the fires we have on the landscape. The local units, Forest Service, Minnesota DNR, along with the team and a contingent of resources identified with that team, remain focused on initial attack in and around this area, but beyond that, across the state of Minnesota. So as conditions continue in this drying pattern we're experiencing right now, we are starting to see some initial attack fires that are in that Bemidji area, around the Chippewa National Forest, on lands to the west. That doesn't surprise us through this drying trend. So as that picks up, potentially, if it remains dry going forward, you will see some resources reallocated. And when I say reallocated, it's not taking away from the efforts here, but to bring others in or move folks around within the state to make sure we do stay prepared for initial attack in other places. It could include aviation, additional engines, and ground personnel. Right now we're in good shape. It's a good reminder that we still pay attention across the state while we are still very focused here on the large organizational approach with resources here to manage what we have on a landscape here. Locally, there have been a small number of fires. Most of that followed in a July lightning event that occurred last Friday. If you remember last Friday morning, some showers come in, there was lightning associated with that. We started to see a little bit of initial attack uptick that Sunday into Monday, And then if you remember Tuesday morning, some more rain came in, a little bit associated with lightning. And so we'll watch for that now. It's been 2, 3, 4 days from there. Continues to dry out, so we'll look for that. But we do remain prepared, not only here, but across the state.
Good afternoon, Tim Loma, Chief Deputy of the Lake County Sheriff's Office. Today I'm just going to speak specifically about the Lake County evacuations. I'm not going to go into St. Louis County just because I don't have authority to speak on that. Due to the great work being done on the fire by the fire crews on the camp house fire, or not camp house fire, but on the campfire, we were able to offer the displaced property owners an opportunity to access their property yesterday from 8 to 2. So basically what we did is we were able to have them check in. We had deputies escort them to their property. They were able to do their thing, and we escorted them out. We anticipate that about 110 properties were visited with approximately 250 people. It was a very big success. Lots of happy property owners. Again, we continue to meet daily with Shane and his team, along with our local, state, and federal partners to assess the evacuation zone status, with the ultimate goal being let people back into their properties. Again, I cannot thank the residents, property owners, and business owners for their understanding and patience during this event. Again, thank you to all the fire crews that are out there putting in the long hours, hard work to battle these fires, to keep them spreading. Again, I would also like to just take a moment, remind people to sign up for your county's emergency notifications. That's going to be the best way to get that official notification on whether evac zones change or if there's any special offerings going to be available to property owners. That's all I got for now. Thank you.
Good afternoon. I'm Tom Hall. I'm the agency administrator for the Forest Service. I'm going to make announcements related to the Boundary Waters Canoe Area Wilderness closures. We've made 2 announcements. On Monday, July 27th, parts of Cook County within the Boundary Waters Canoe Area Wilderness will be made available for day use permits. And then again on Thursday, July 30th, parts of Cook and Lake counties in the Boundary Waters Canoe Area Wilderness will be made available for overnight permits. This is in effect a potential reduction in the Boundary Waters closure. Obviously, we are assessing on a daily basis what those fire conditions might look like, what those weather conditions might look like, and what those resource availability are, both within the Forest Service and those other jurisdictional agencies, whether those announcements will go into effect on Monday and Thursday. But at this point, that is the plan as we announced in the press releases. Thank you.
My name is Ryan Fleeman. I'm the incident meteorologist here assigned on the fire. As far as we go, since the last time we met, overall, before we were kind of in the bottom to where we had moist conditions, our temperatures were below normal, and we saw those winds subside a little bit. Well, we're finally starting to move up, kind of that uptick over the last couple days. Today was kind of that culmination of, you know, we were expecting the breezy winds. We're starting to see that in some areas around the fire. Our temperatures have kind of they've maximized a little bit simply because we brought in cloud cover from storms that occurred to our west. As far as we move through the day today, we are expecting to see continued showers for the region. We've seen some of that in and around the fire footprint itself, although very light. I expect to continue to see that through the afternoon hours and into the evening hours. Now, as we move into tonight, that's when I do see our greatest chance for some showers and thunderstorms around the region. Expect to see stuff that's over in the Dakotas and Canada right now continue to move into our area. Now, the good thing with it is it's a very good chance of precipitation. The bad thing is it does come with some hazards as well as lightning, some gusty outflow winds, and maybe even some small hail. So those are all things that we've got some positives with it, but we've also got some negatives. So as we get through the evening and overnight hours, we do expect to see that move move through the area. Moving into tomorrow, we expect to see those storms move to our east, giving way to a pleasant day tomorrow. And then as we move into Sunday, there is another threat for severe weather as well. So that's going to be on the radar as we move forward, is seeing, getting through this evening and tonight, and then seeing what Sunday looks like as we move forward. Thank you.
Hello. Good afternoon. My name is Josh Hall. I was brought in to help forecast air quality by the forest to support the incident management team. Currently what we're seeing is a lot of high-level smoke that's causing quite a bit of haze in the area. A lot of this smoke is from fires in Canada and in the western United States. It's not coming from smoke from these fires right now. It's not causing any issues from a public health standpoint at the surface. We're mostly looking at good to moderate air quality all across Minnesota. With the strong southwest winds, they're going to continue to kind of push any smoke that's generated from these fires into Canada overnight. With the expected rain that's coming in this afternoon on these fires, we're expecting those conditions to remain in place throughout the whole weekend and next several days is good to moderate air quality. We are, looking at if we don't get rain, the winds will shift tomorrow from a northwest direction and could push smoke back into this area, but we're not expecting that. We're just looking at it in case we don't get any rain, but it's not expected. Those impacts, if they were to occur, would be just localized into areas near the fire. We did set up some monitors last couple days in Ely, one on the Minnesota Northern College, and so that one will be left here once all the fire personnel have left. So there will be some way to continue to monitor air quality in this area. We have also set up another monitor here at the ranger station. Those can all be seen on the fire and smoke map. If people do an internet search, they'll find that and they'll be able to see what those conditions are. And it's a great place for the public to maintain and see what the current conditions are. But over the weekend, we're looking at similar conditions to what we're seeing right now, probably a little bit better once the rain rolls through. Thanks.
Thanks, Josh. And now we'll open it up to questions, Q&A. Go ahead and ask away.
There's been a lot of gratitude for the crews that have come in from out of town. But can someone speak to the impact of our local volunteer firefighter departments that have sent people up? They're pretty proud of being able to help, so maybe you guys could reflect on what that means for the whole team.
Sure. I very much appreciate the question. They do deserve a lot of recognition. They are here every day. And how that works is through the Minnesota State Fire Marshal's Division, helping to coordinate those fire departments to come in based on a need on a daily basis, so day and night shift. Running both shifts, they have been out there as additional resources become available and to try and reduce a little bit of that stress on the fire departments. You'll see a little bit less. We've downsized that a little bit, but they still remain active. And mutual aid throughout the Minnesota Fire Service is tremendous. They respond, they're volunteers, they set aside what's going on in their daily lives to come support not only the fire department, but the local community. And you see that time and time again. So as part of the DNR, working every day on wildfire, especially IA, initial attack, with fire departments across the state. Number one, they're set up in the right spot already, and when you ask for one, you get them all. So I appreciate you bringing it up. They are involved right now. You'll see some numbers reduce a little bit as resources become more available, but right now they still continue to run a day shift and a night shift.
The crews that come from out of town, have they anything anecdotally that you've heard about this situation, this fire that they really like, find challenging? Maybe it's the same everywhere, I don't know, but maybe you've heard from some of the teams from out of town what they like or think is different about these fires?
Okay, hey, thanks for that question. So the question was, is there anything unique or different from our off-forest, out-of-state resources that are helping contribute to the suppression efforts? I would say everybody thinks this place is unique. It's really special up here in northeastern Minnesota. If you've done any traveling outside the Boundary Waters area or greater Minnesota, you realize that the landscape is significantly different. Traveling to a fire via, if it's float plane, canoe, or boat, is something very unique. It would be comparable to maybe some of the Alaska fires that we see on a national level. I feel like people like coming here. We do as best as we can for the hospitality, welcome them to our area. A lot of resources have been here in the past. But fighting fire in northern Minnesota, and especially the Boundary Waters Canoe Area Wilderness, is very, very unique. It's got its unique challenges. It's a different fuel type that most of the lower 48 states don't have. And they usually end up, working very hard, and at the end of their assignment, it's pretty memorable for them in this unique ecosystem that we have.
So last time I've heard, the numbers are increasing daily, but with the firefighters that are currently on the ground, how many of them specifically could be kind of ready for the IA that you were discussing here?
Initial attack.
Initial attack, sorry.
So the question is, how many ready reserve or ready firefighters do we have available for initial attack?
So I'm going to speak to what's around the Chubb side. We do have a large contingent area there, and we have several folks in a task force. That includes heavy equipment, that includes crews, that includes overhead. So those folks are poised and ready to go and fight any initial attack, new starts, to keep those in a small containment. For the area around the Sioux, the Bear, and Camp, we have a smaller footprint with what is our IA responsibility. We have the same organization identified within that area. So within our TFR, which is the flight restriction area, that is our response area for any new IA. With that, we have the heavy equipment, the crews, and the overhead needed to jump on those to make them, to keep them at a very small footprint. So we're poised and ready for any new starts within our response area. Thank you.
Any updates on structures that have been impacted? And if there is not any information on that, when could property owners expect to get information on whether or not their structures may have been impacted if they've been in the evacuation zone?
So, asking about the structures that could possibly be impacted, at this time we've not identified any structures other than what the Forest Service had identified previously that have been impacted. And we continue to find additional structures that wasn't made aware, so we're continuing to do that prep that's needed in and around that fire footprint on those structures. At this time, we have not identified any structures within our fire footprint that's impacted.
Would someone address the decision made to move the command center from the Ely School District, where they were receiving a nice financial boost, to have that there to a place 25 miles away that won't impact the Ely community at all for those?
Okay.
So I can speak to that. So talking about the move of the ICP from Ely to Tower. So we looked at that. This is a long duration fire event. So the fact that we're sitting in a school, their school's getting ready to start back up. So the impacts to that school system would be detrimental in the future. So for us to set up for success for the future teams, we had to identify a location. Putting the location in Tower, we are supporting 2 forward operating bases. We still have a footprint here in Ely with our forward operating base, which means all of our sections are still here in Ely, as well as our footprint that is in Cook, which is another forward operating base. So strategically locating that is better serving both of those forward operating bases and not putting any more strains on the school system here.
We had a contract though through middle of August, and then that was
Sir, I'm not willing, I do not have any information on that contract.
Okay.
That's going to be in our finance department.
Follow-up, different question.
Sure.
For the campfire, the one that's directly closest to Ely, that was listed as basically out at one point and then suddenly changed. What happened, or is there any discussion on that yet, or is that something you do down the road?
So your question was, that was listed, the campfire was listed as out and then changed. The campfire has never been listed as out. Campfire has a % containment on it, and we're still looking at opportunities to go to direct to be able to control that fire. So it's going to be some time before that fire is completely called out. And when I say that, we're talking a season-ending event before that fire is officially called out.
I'm referring to when it was a very, very small fire initially before the winds picked up and took it into something else. You know what I'm talking about?
Yeah, I can speak to that. So the question was in regards to the campfire being contained, and then obviously spread through containment. So there's 3 categories we use as firefighters: contained, controlled, and out. Those are 3 very important terms on our behalf. So just because we have a fire contained, that may be we have a hose lay around it, and maybe we have some kind of a hand line, scratch line. It is very common for fires if we can get containment on it, those fires will throw embers out. The day that the fire was contained, we continue to have crews and had crews on the fire when it decided to jump out of that containment line. So I think it's really important to understand the terminology. The containment of that fire was in place, as our firefighters had thought. They were actively working that fire to move it into a control phase. But between the containment and control phase, that fire decided to do what it was going to do, jump that containment line, and that we had to reinforce it with additional resources.
Thank you.
Maybe you could answer one more question about firefighters. It's supposed to get pretty hot for even like the average person in the next week. How do the fire crews do all this work for like 14 hours or whatever it is and not feel the effects? Or how do they stay safe when it's so hot?
Sure. So the question is, how do our firefighters deal with the heat, working a long, strenuous 14-hour shift? Most of them are very well trained. Okay, I want to start there. We have PPE, protective personal equipment that we wear, long sleeves, pants. It gets very hot. Most of our firefighters are certainly used to these conditions, 80 degrees, 85 degrees. In a lot of parts of the country, sometimes it can reach 110 and 115 degrees. Obviously, humidity has a factor. So through good hydration, through good sleep patterns, if they were able to get some in that small amount of time, it certainly taxes the body, especially when we're in a month of July. And a lot of our firefighters have been at it since April, and they're looking at doing this until October or November, or it could be December. So really, a good reminder of taking care of themselves is a message that we stress on a daily basis. A lot of weight, a lot of sweating, good healthy diets and hydration, really gets that person, through a long shift, along with being very physically active coming into the fire season. All that helps prepare for what I would call a marathon or a year-long fire season that most of us do see, throughout the United States.
Nick, maybe we want to touch on the annual refresher and/or maybe the camp diet or the camp food and how it's
sure
specific.
Yep. So Joy wanted me to touch on the camp food or the camp diet. So when we have an incident management team come in, they often come with, for instance, we have some caterers, and there's a specialist called a food unit leader. And what that person does is he or she has been through a lot of training. They figure out exactly how many calories our firefighters need in order to endure the strenuous conditions based on how long they work. So it's not something that we just we take lightly by any means. We have to make sure the calorie intake is there, that they're getting fed a proper diet instead of just going to a gas station eating Snickers bars. That's not going to really make for a long shift. So that part is kind of underneath the incident management team. Our local people that have been doing this for a while certainly know that when we move into heightened fire activity, to do the best you can to take care of your body. And that's that's just kind of part of our career. It's diet and physical activity is part of what all our firefighters on the Forest Service and partner level strive for.
Any other questions? All right. Thank you very much. Appreciate your time.
This is NPR News. I'm Nina Moyni. You just heard a live update from Ely on the wildfires burning in northern Minnesota around the Boundary Waters Canoe area and the Superior National Forest. This, you will remember, started around July 6th with several lightning strikes that started around a dozen fires over time. These are in remote areas, and it's going to take months and perhaps snow to get them out completely. The big takeaways from the update today: winds are picking up. All of this is very weather dependent. Things are changing fast. They are expecting showers, though, for the region this afternoon and evening, and more rain chances tonight. Tom Hall from the Forest Service gave an update on permits to use the BWCA wilderness. He said parts of Cook County will be made available for day use permits starting Monday, and Thursday, July 30th, parts of Cook and Lake counties will be made available for overnight permits. Again, these are weather-dependent plans. Why is this important? Well, this area relies heavily on tourism, and lots of businesses, outfitters, and all kinds of businesses have stopped being able to operate altogether. Now, the Minnesota DNR is focused on new fires, they said, that may be occurring due to dry weather or more lightning. If it remains dry moving forward, there are going to be more resources on the ground to help out the DNR, both on the ground and in the air, but they stressed it won't take away from the current resources that are helping fight these larger fires that have been burning again for many days now. Lake County Sheriff gave an update on their county's evacuation orders and said that displaced property owners were actually able to go in with help, assistance, and access their properties yesterday for a few hours. They were then escorted back out. He said this was around 110 properties. He said it went pretty successfully, and they didn't find any damage or any extra damage that they hadn't already seen. These officials really recommend that if you are in northeast Minnesota and all of northern Minnesota, really, to go ahead and sign up for and keep watching emergency notifications for where your county is in case there are more evacuations coming, and to be ready, have your papers together, and to have a plan just in case. So, what's being done from the state level to help folks get back on track? My colleague Dana Ferguson was at an event with Governor Walz and legislative leaders today, and she asked them about the fires and the possibility for a relief package from the state of some sort. Governor Walz said a special session to consider that is not in the works, but also isn't off the table.
First of all, thank you to all the folks up there who are doing the hard work and understanding. Thanks for the folks up there for listening to the orders so far at this point in time, trying to keep people safe, property safe. We got a little bit of break with the rain, but it's still, we're going to heat up again this weekend. I believe I'll be up there Monday, give them some space so they can get their things done. And then the calls that I'm hearing, and I think it's something that the legislature, I would encourage them to consider, what does a relief package look like? And we haven't done anything with that yet, but I think that's something to put out there, that a lot of economic damage.
Republican House Speaker Lisa Damith said the decision on calling a special session is up to the governor. DFL Senate Majority Leader Erin Murphy told Dana she's likely to see a relief package for multiple parts of the state.
So I know the governor's called a peacetime emergency, and we may have to come back for that. And I think we should think about economic relief. But from my perspective, it is important to think about the economic relief. Parts of the state that have been injured, and we were not able to get across the line economic relief as a result of the injuries caused by Metro Surge, and we want to talk about that as well. But we haven't had any opportunity to talk about it yet, so we'll see.
If it was up to you, it sounds like that would be part of a broader discussion about making sure that different communities are being served, getting relief.
I think it has been Minnesotans' belief and action that when we experience a tragedy or a disaster, a natural disaster, that we pitch in together and we help. And we do that regardless of region. And I think it's important to bring that principle to this discussion if there is a special session. We'll see. We'll see where we go. But it's important, yes.
DFL Senate Majority Leader Erin Murphy there. Now, we're going to wrap up our special coverage now. You can always find the very latest on these wildfires in northern Minnesota anytime at nprnews.org. Now, we're going to join Science Friday, already in progress now. They're going to talk with actor Tom Hiddleston, who hosts a new National Geographic documentary about Pompeii. I'm Nina Moyni. Thanks for listening.